Goddess Oshun is a deity from the southwestern Nigerian tradition. She's associated with water, purity, sensuality, love, and childbearing. It is also believed that she rules money and happiness. She's always depicted in this beautiful, flowy, golden dress. In traditional Nigerian folklore, it is told that the gods began having meetings without her. They were speaking negatively in the absence of her presence. They had began to undervalue her and started making plans that didn't include her. We really don't need her, they would say in conclusions of many of their conversations. They would agree upon all of the things that they could do without her. And who likes being disrespected or their value being taken for granted? No one. And Goddess Oshun is no exception. So when she received word that the male deities decided that they didn't need her, she removed herself completely. She disappeared and she went on a hiatus, telling no one her whereabouts. Rather than spending time feeling bad that she was unwanted, she spent her days pampering herself. She kept all of her powers to herself while luxuriating in isolation. She was far away from mankind in the god and goddess kingdom. She enjoyed aloneness while worshiping and meditating in pure nature and solitude. Her skin radiated more than ever as she bathed in her essential oils. She basked in the sunlight and she celebrated her divine qualities. Oh, you disrespected me? She thought calmly to herself. Then, with a chuckle and a light heart, she said, well, let's see how you love the world without me. For the first time in her life, she kept all of her gifts to herself. Away, she laid in her full self-love and knowledge. She felt more energized than ever, finally not having to share her power with the world. Now, it was believed that this goddess ruled the moon, but I consider her the sun. She embodied true femininity, with glowing skin and her curvaceousness, which represented fertility. She ruled every aspect of beauty, art, and creativity. So when Goddess Oshun left, she took all that she brought with her. You see, every deity has their flaws, and this goddess was no exception. Her tragic flaw was her wrath, scorn, and vengeance. She took particular pleasure in planning her attack. She was well aware that mankind would not survive without the powers that she possessed. She realized the life force that she withheld would leave the world barren. Her plan was to remove herself. The result would be that the people would have to pay for every ounce of heartbreak, of disrespect, and of misvalue. Without her sunshine, the earth became dark, and the vast oceans dried up. No matter how many rain dances, the rain would not come, which eliminated all of the crops and all of the vegetation. Without her vitality, people became filled with despair, feeling as if they had nothing to live for. Music was removed. There was no longer any art, no beauty, no color, and worst of all, no love. They had disrespected, mistreated, and undervalued her divine feminine qualities for too long. The universe grew cold and began to destroy itself. A horrible famine overtook the villages. People were dying in mass numbers. The gods assembled again, with no choice but to recognize the limitations of their power. We have to ask her back, one declared with defeat in his voice. Desperately, they planned on how they could beg the goddess to return. They knew that a small gesture wouldn't work, so they began collecting all of the treasure and all of the gems that they could find. They assigned one to dig day and night, searching for diamonds and gold and valuables. Another was sent to arrive at all people's homes that had survived the famine and collect all of their valuables. Another god searched through the forests, the mountains, the deserts for weeks just trying to locate her. Once they found her and believed that they had collected enough treasure, they sent their children off to present it to her because they knew she had a little soft spot for the little ones. When the children arrived, they bowed to her. They presented the valuables while paying her compliment after compliment. One washed her feet while another one sang and danced for her entertainment. She smiled, but sent the children back with all of the jewels. Tell whoever sent you that I cannot be bought. That's a piece that I wrote on the Nigerian deity goddess Oshun. And this folklore, to me, is symbolic of some of the things that we see unfolding in modern civilization. What had the world become without divine femininity? Without women leadership? We've seen on a global level men rulership. And now we have a pandemic. Now we have climate control. No clean air. No good water. GMO food. This has been the result of male rulership. We might be on the brink of a famine. We have a huge wealth disparity. Children impoverished in third world nations, ribs touching, sewage babies that are literally born into sewage, all under male domination. Is this the result of a lack of female rulership? Is this the result or the consequence of not having women to input when policies are made? Is it? I wrote a song the other day, and the lyrics went, yeah, I talk my shit, yeah, I talk real slick like I had a dick. And excuse the vulgarity, but I was making a point that if I was a male, especially if I was a white man, I would not be considered arrogant, I would not be considered cocky. People would not have the same critiques about my personality if I was not in the skin that I'm in. Women being considered less, not just here in America, but all over the world. Women's voices being muted. Women's opinions being ignored. Has this led to global warming? I mean, these world crises, if we had women in power, do we feel like, honestly, we would be facing these world crises? And why are confident women so problematic? Not just for men now, ladies. I gotta keep it real. For us too. Why is a woman that exudes extreme confidence so problematic? Why does she need to be humbled? Why does she need to be humiliated? Why? I remember this was actually my brother's ex-girlfriend, and I loved her. Loved her, loved her, loved her. When you talk about confidence in the flesh, okay, this woman was brilliant and just confident. And the things that she told me are just like life gems. When I tell you she put me on, she put me on. And I remember her raising the point years ago about how men take up space. And how she deliberately takes up space. She's like, I'll go out and I will deliberately take up space. And she's like, now it's not even a second thought for me. Before I had to like really do it. She's like, because you'll notice when men are out, they spread their legs wide. They don't think twice about it. It's not like they're intentionally trying to make other people uncomfortable. They just are firm in their masculinity. Like they just know that they're meant to be here. And they don't have any issue taking up space. They spread their legs on the train. You know what I'm saying? They don't have an issue taking up space, whereas women are almost apologetic of their presence. We have to cross our legs and be small. We're almost apologetic of the space that we take up. And that was one thing that she brought to my attention. I started observing as I walked around and looked around and would be on the train. I said, wow, interesting. And this was a truly confident woman. Why? Because she had no issue with giving me advice. She had no issue with empowering me. She had no issue with putting me on. And true confidence, that's what it is. Alpha women, true confident alpha women don't have an issue with other women. Women who are truly firm and really secure within don't have an issue with another beautiful woman on the scene. Don't have an issue with another intelligent woman on the scene. It's not a problem for women who are not threatened. But just like males have sometimes conflict with the male ego, women are no exception. I remember President Obama ran for office, and I believe Jesse Jackson was on the campaign. Oh, messy Jesse. And they announced that Obama won, and you hear Jesse saying like, this motherfucking motherfucker. He didn't realize his mic was on. And Jesse was, I believe, one of the first black people, might have been Dick Gregory, to run for president. And so when we talk about competition and jealousy, it's not just with us women, it's with men too. Men feel threatened, men feel jealous, men feel, all of these things as well. But I believe that when we talk about female leadership, that toxic femininity, that lower nature, may be something that people are afraid of. Will the best person get selected all the time? Will women let their jealousy get the best of them? If that woman is smarter than you, if that woman is more attractive than you, will you intentionally not give her that leadership position that she deserves? Are we capable of checking our lower nature as women? I know that true confidence, like I said, is definitely not threatened by competition. You look at the NBA, you look at the NFL, these are pro athletes that are the best of their league. They're going against the best. Nobody wants to go against people who are a fraction of them. Why? Because it's not fun. It's not competition. And nobody wants to eliminate the competition just to, try to not have a challenge. No. That's part of winning. That's part of feeling good about the win, when you know it's an honest win because your competitor was just as good as you. Eliminating the competition, 40 people going against one person. These are things that people who feel mediocre have to do. I say rise to the competition. So big shout out to Blue Pill and Ken Brisman. I know today's Tuesday, and they have this podcast, Tough Talk Tuesday. Check it out when you have a moment. And I remember checking out one of their episodes, and they were basically talking about the top 1%. And they were talking about how things are different. With the top 1% of women, the top 1% meaning the people who basically own everything. These are the richest people in the world. Top 1%. They make like a large percentage of the world's wealth. Just 1%. And they basically were talking about what they had found out about these women and what their activities were. And it was more like them becoming Renaissance women. They wanted to like master like everything. Like they do fencing, and they have activities that they do, and they horseback ride and stuff like that. And it was just a very interesting conversation when you take money out of the equation, and you take upward mobility out of the equation, and you take survival out of the equation. When your money is endless, as a woman, how does that change the dynamics of how you relate to men when survival and all of these things are not a part of the equation? I mean, I'm certain, any woman would want to be desirable, but probably not to the degree that women in poverty are, looking to be attractive and desirable. Why? When we talk about femininity and we talk about all of these things, of course, every woman wants to be beautiful, but you'll notice, a lot of times women in poverty will go above and beyond to have sex appeal, where like the lashes and the lace fronts and the fingernails, and just like what they feel like is very, very sexy will go above and beyond. And the way I analyze it, and again, this is my opinion, is that this is based off of necessity. This is based off of survival. And when we talk about women, right, we have to talk about all women. So the top 1% of women don't have to do a lot of things that other women have to do because they're very secure in their survival, right? Now, the women on the bottom often have to do things that other women don't have to do because they're not as secure in their survival. So we talk about a lot of these men who take these trips to Dominican Republic. These men will go to Thailand, they'll go to these different third world countries. And sometimes the age of consent is like 12 years old. It's really, to me, quite repulsive. It's disgusting. And they go and they'll come back home and they'll talk about what some of these very poor women will do for $30, $40. And how poverty adds a certain dynamic to what it means to be a woman and what it means to be feminine. One issue that I have, and I support, Amber Rose. I support, I support the slut walk to some degree for the right reasons. I attended the Slut Walk in Los Angeles. Amber Rose is one. Why? Because a large part of it is about domestic violence and sexual assault that often, especially women of color, especially women who are in poverty, can get raped, can get sexually assaulted, and these assaults are often swept under the rug, and they get no justice because sometimes it's powerful men that do these things. And that's something that I support entirely. In addition to the fact that I could see how a woman who would have no options might go into sex work. Often sex work is not something that people choose because they're just so full of lust. This is something that people do based off of necessity. Just because I choose not to, and this is not part of my lifestyle, does not mean that I don't have empathy and compassion for women who may have absolutely no choice but to do something like this to put food on the table for their children. And often, it's women of privilege who will turn their nose up at these type of women and look at them as if they're despicable or as if they're disgusting. And these women don't have dads. They don't have fathers for their dads. They come from very impoverished backgrounds. They have very limited options. They don't, have education. And, this is necessity. And so as women, when we look for a place in society and say, look, we want to be respected and we want to be treated fairly and all of these things, are we treating other women fairly? Are we treating women who have bad circumstances and bad situations, are we treating them fairly? Are we looking at them from a compassionate standpoint? Or are we judging them because these are situations that we would never have to be in or never have to be put through? I think one of the problems that people look at is the idea of a woman using her sexuality or, sexiness for upward mobility. And I believe it's a woman's choice to do what she chooses to do. But I also believe that a lot of these things are based off of necessity. I don't think that there's too many women that are going to be stripping because they have a wealthy husband at home and they just want to show their bodies to strange men and get money poured all over them. I don't think that that's, I don't think that that's really why they do it. I think that they do it because they need money. And so if you've never been in a position where you've been impoverished, who are you to judge these women? And to me, that's part of what is what prevents women from being able to have respect. Because men continuously will play into our insecurities and will pit us against one another. And the minute that we fall into those traps is the minute that they know that they have the upper hand. I'll see it all the time. A man might compliment another woman and this woman goes into some sort of like insecure frenzy. Why? Just because a man finds another woman attractive? And so for me, I've met people of all different walks of life. I've been very privileged to meet like very wealthy people, very poor people from all different walks of life. And part of what I feel like my gift is being able to tell their stories. And so that's the beauty of my songwriting. That's the beauty of my art. Now with women, right? A lot of times you got, a woman who would not necessarily hire a woman who they find their husband may find sexy, like a babysitter or something like that. Most women wouldn't do that. Why? Survival. We go back to the top 1%, right? these women don't have any money issues. A woman who's married to a man who she knows is the provider and the protector of her children, and the way that she's able to live and the way that she's able to eat, she's not going to necessarily invite somebody who could threaten her security and her stability into her home. And I've seen it time and time again, and to me it's sad, where you'll have some women who will tell their husbands, who may be a boss or a CEO, to get rid of that girl who works for them. I don't know, it's just something about her. Get rid of her. So women can be very threatened by other women. And it's not just jealousy, it's the threatening of their survival, of the possibility of that other woman taking away your daily bread, or your, the father of your children. That's really the issue. Now, masculine energy, feminine energy, we all have both. We all have masculine and feminine energy. Men have feminine energy, women have masculine energy to varying degrees. Because things are so unharmonious with the world, there's definitely an imbalance. And to some extent, there's almost a role reversal. And so, traditionally women have nurturing qualities, which to me is necessary to kind of balance out this very crazy energy that's going on with the world being the way that it is. If we had more traditional female rulership, then we would have people who have more compassion making decisions, and we probably wouldn't have these global crises. There would probably be more adequate education and food and supplies for children all over the world if there was more females in power. And again, I say that the crisis is a lack of females in power. And so men, when I talk about Jesse Jackson, I remember having a crack up about Paul Mooney. He was saying that he told Jesse to hide his old baby because Jesse Jackson ended up having a baby out of wedlock. And it's happened time and time again where men have fallen victim to women. And when we talk about men being in power and, male rulership, a lot of women make the argument, well, look at what they've done with their power. Anything in a miniskirt, they fall victim to, and they'll lose it all. They'll lose their title, their reputation, all of these things just based off of their desire for women. And I get it, and I'm not making any excuses for men, but what I am saying is as women, we don't know what it is to be a man. And we're talking about men from the standpoint of us having vaginas. So we have organs that are on the inside. Men have an external organ. And imagine, having an external organ where any little sensation, like the wind could blow and your pants could move a little bit, and that could kind of get you a little sexually aroused. Or, we're beautiful women, and men can see something and it might, it might get them aroused. Even though we constantly say, hey, you should be able to check that, you should, keep your dick in your pants and things like that. We really don't know what it's like to have that sexual urge the way that men do. We don't know what it's like, women. We just don't know. And I'm not saying that women don't get horny, and I'm not saying that women don't have, desires as well, but not to the same degree that men have. And so, again, I say when it comes to us and it comes to, judging men, we don't know what it's like. Just like we don't want to be told what it's like to be a woman, I don't think that we should be telling men exactly what it's like to be a man, because we just don't know. And I'm not saying that men are weak. this really isn't a conversation, because I think that part of the issue of toxic femininity is that women want total domination. They say, fuck these guys, they can't keep their dicks in their pants, and we feel like we need to take over at this point. Look at what they've done to the world. You know, look at how the world is in a crisis, and they'll lose everything just trying to chase, you know, a woman in a short skirt or whatever. And I don't think that that's the solution. Men have their weaknesses, women have our weaknesses as well. I think that if we are almost 50-50, right? It's like 52% women globally or 53% women globally. We should be able to have the same representation globally as far as female power as men. We should have women leaders and we should have male leaders, and we should seek to support each other. It's not a matter of us being better than men or men being better than women. That's not the solution. Just like a healthy child needs his mom and his dad, needs both male and female energy, we all need masculine and feminine energy. So that's really not the solution. And to me, that's toxic. We talk about toxic masculinity. That's toxic femininity. As far as women, you know, do we, going back to men and us being their weakness, do we need to downplay our attractiveness to make men feel more comfortable around us? Like, if a woman has beautiful lips, should she not wear lipstick? You know what I mean? Do women get upset by other women being too sexy? Do sexy women get vilified as if they are constantly the temptress? These are all questions, you know, when we're dissecting femininity. I've seen it time and time again at the workplace where a sexy woman will get targeted. And I never join those conversations because I don't think that that's fair. You know, where a woman who may possess certain qualities, certain looks, is getting a lot of attention from the men, and then all the other girls want to gang up on her and get her fired or get her eliminated. It happens all the time, not just at the strip clubs. It happens in day-to-day corporate America, regular 9-to-5s, all the time. There was just a video that was released from Trey Songz with the 76ers. You know, there was a black girl on the 76ers. She had a nice tight body, and she was probably a better dancer. And they all ganged up against her and talked all this trash and tried to downgrade her and make it seem like she was less, and called her ghetto and all of these things. These things happen every single day. And the question is, you know, is this learned behavior? Why is it that a woman can't be sexy? Why is it such a threat to other women if a woman is sexy? Even the Kim K's, you know, even the Kim Kardashians, the Amber Roses, you know, Kenya Moore doesn't dress so sexy, but she's a sexy woman. Like these, you know, the Eva, you know, like there's just a list of Miss Ford, Melissa Ford. Like there's a list of women that are intelligent and they're very sexy. Why do women hate these women? You know, why, like, are these women literally getting hate mail? And, you know, you've got just like the regular girl who's like trying to move up, and she may be sexy and she can't move up because she's continuously the target of other women and their jealousy and their insecurity. How is that fair to her? How is that fair to her that your insecurity has now prevented her from being able to feed her family? And then when we don't have female leadership, can we blame people for not taking us seriously? When we can't even get past women can't even get past their jealousy of other women? Can they really consider us to be candidates for the next whatever leadership position. So food for thought. I think that female leadership is absolutely imperative. I think that it is the solution to much of our global crisis. However, as women, we have to check ourselves. We have to check the things that we think, the things that we say, the things that we do, and how we treat other women in order to be respected. Part 2. Peace.